The banishment. The secret garden romance. The moonlight painted silver patterns on the garden walls of Crystal Shore Palace. Princess Elena walked quietly through the rose-covered pathways, her silk gown whispering against the stone. This was her favorite time of night, when the palace slept and she could finally breathe freely. Away from the watching eyes of court. Away from her mother's cold stares. Away from the weight of a crown she never asked to wear. She wasn't alone tonight. Marcus waited by the fountain, his soldier's uniform replaced by simple clothes. He was a common guard, the son of a blacksmith, with calloused hands and honest eyes that saw her not as a princess, but as Elena. Just Elena. When he smiled, her heart forgot about duty and royal blood. When he spoke her name, she remembered what it felt like to be truly seen. "You came," he whispered, reaching for her hand. "I always come," she replied, her fingers intertwining with his. "I would cross fire to be with you." Their love was forbidden. A princess could not love a soldier. Royal blood could not mix with common blood. These were the rules written in stone, rules older than memory itself. But love doesn't read rules. Love doesn't care about crowns or titles. Love simply is. They had met 6 months ago when Marcus saved her from a runaway horse in the market. While other guards stood frozen, he had acted without thinking, pulling her to safety. She had looked into his eyes and felt something shift in her world. Something real. Something true. The precious discovery. 3 months later, Elena stood in her private chambers, hands shaking as she held the truth. She was carrying Marcus's child. Their child. A tiny spark of life growing inside her. A perfect blend of their forbidden love. Terror and joy fought inside her heart. She pressed her hand against her stomach, feeling nothing yet but knowing everything had changed. This child was a miracle. This child was also a disaster. In the kingdom of Crystal Shore, royal bloodlines were sacred. A princess bearing the child of a common soldier was unthinkable. It was treason against tradition. It was shame upon the crown. Her mother, Queen Mother Octavia, would never allow it. The court would never accept it. But as Elena thought of Marcus's gentle smile, of his strong arms, of the way he made her laugh until her sides hurt, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would protect this child. She would fight for this love. She sent a secret message to Marcus that night, asking him to meet her in their garden. When he arrived, she took his hands and placed them on her stomach. She watched his face transform from confusion to understanding, from shock to pure joy. "We're going to have a baby," she whispered. Marcus pulled her close, his voice thick with emotion. "Then we'll run away. Tonight, we'll go somewhere they can't find us. Somewhere we can be a family. My mother will hunt us to the ends of the earth," Elena said, though her heart wanted to say yes. "But maybe if I speak to her, maybe if I explain that we truly love each other." She believed in the possibility of understanding. She believed her mother might choose love over tradition. She was young enough to still believe in hope. She was wrong. The cold judgment. The throne room had never felt so cold. Princess Elena stood in the center, surrounded by dozens of court members who stared at her like she was a criminal. Her mother sat on the golden throne, her face carved from ice, her eyes empty of mercy. Queen Mother Octavia had discovered the pregnancy through her network of spies. Nothing happened in the palace without her knowing. She had waited, gathered evidence, and then struck with the precision of an executioner. "You have brought shame upon this crown," Octavia's voice echoed through the chamber. "You have polluted royal blood with common filth. You have betrayed your duty, your family, and your kingdom." "Mother, please," Elena begged, her voice breaking. "I love him. We love each other. Our child is innocent." "Love?" Octavia laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You speak of love as if it matters. You are a princess. Your body belongs to the kingdom. Your womb exists to create alliances through marriage. You have stolen that from us." Elena's hands instinctively covered her stomach, protecting the life within. "This child is your grandchild. Doesn't that mean anything?" That bastard is no grandchild of mine, Octavia spat. That creature is a stain, a mistake, an abomination. The words cut deeper than any blade. Elena felt tears burning her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give her mother that satisfaction. Bring in the soldier, Octavia commanded. The doors opened. Guards dragged Marcus in, his face bruised, his hands chained. His eyes found Elena's immediately, filled with anguish and fear. No! Elena screamed, trying to run to him, but guards held her back. The forced betrayal. Queen Mother Octavia rose from her throne, her gown flowing behind her like a dark river. She walked to Marcus and looked at him with disgust. Tell the court the truth, soldier, she commanded. Did you force yourself upon the princess? Did you take advantage of her innocence? Marcus's eyes widened in horror. No, I would never. Your family is in the dungeons, Octavia interrupted, her voice soft and deadly. Your mother, your father, your young sister. Say what I tell you to say, or they will be executed for treason. Slowly, painfully. Your choice.
Elena o ached Marcus să face crumble.
She saw the exact moment his heart broke. She understood what was happening, and the cruelty of it stole her breath. Marcus, don't, she pleaded. Don't do this. But Marcus looked at her with tears streaming down his face. He looked at the woman he loved more than his own life, and he made the only choice he could make. I forced myself upon the princess, he said, each word tearing him apart. I took advantage of her kindness. I am guilty of the crime of touching royal blood.
Marcus.
No.
Elena screamed.
That's not true. Tell them the truth. But he continued, his voice hollow. The child is mine through force. The princess is innocent. I alone am guilty. The court erupted in whispers. Elena collapsed to her knees, sobbing. She understood. He was saving his family. He was sacrificing himself, sacrificing their love, to protect the people he held dear. It was an act of love disguised as betrayal. Queen Mother Octavia smiled coldly. The soldier will be imprisoned for life. As for you, daughter. She turned her icy gaze to Elena. You are no longer worthy of the title of princess. The public stripping. They stripped her of everything in front of the entire court. Her tiara was removed from her head. Her royal gown was replaced with rough peasant cloth. Her rings, her jewels, her symbols of royalty, all taken away. Elena stood silent through it all, her head held high. They could take her crown, but they couldn't take her dignity. They could strip her title, but they couldn't strip her love. You are hereby banished from the kingdom of Crystal Shore, Octavia declared. You will leave tonight. You will never return. If you set foot in this kingdom again, you will be executed. The child you carry is not of royal blood. It is nothing. You are nothing. Elena finally spoke, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. You're wrong, mother. This child is everything. This child is loved. This child will know the truth. And one day, this child will know what you've done. Get her out of my sight, Octavia commanded. As guards dragged her away, Elena's eyes found Marcus in the crowd. He was weeping silently, his face a mask of agony. Their eyes met for one final moment. In that moment, no words were needed. She saw his love. She saw his pain. She saw his silent apology. And she forgave him. The long walk to exile. The gates of Crystal Shore Palace opened at midnight. Elena walked through them alone, carrying nothing but the clothes on her back and the child in her womb. Behind her, the palace lights blazed bright. Ahead of her, only darkness waited. She walked for hours, her feet bleeding, her body exhausted. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. She had to get far away before the sun rose. Far away before anyone could change their minds and decide that exile wasn't punishment enough. As dawn broke over the horizon, Elena finally collapsed by a river. She drank the cool water and let herself cry. She cried for the love she'd lost. She cried for the future that would never be. She cried for Marcus, trapped in a prison of impossible choices. But as she felt the tiny flutter in her stomach, the first movement of her child, something hardened inside her. This child would not grow up ashamed. This child would not be called a bastard or a mistake. This child would know love. This child would know strength. "I promise you," Elena whispered to her unborn baby, her hand on her stomach, "I will give you a life worth living. I will tell you the truth about your father. I will teach you to be strong. And one day, my child, one day you will have the choice I never had. You will choose your own destiny." Marcus's living death. Back in the palace dungeons, Marcus sat alone in the darkness. He could still see Elena's face. He could still feel the weight of his betrayal, even though he knew he had no choice. Save his family or save his love. No man should ever have to make that choice. The guards had told him Elena was gone, banished, walking alone into the wilderness, pregnant and defenseless. The thought was a knife twisting in his heart with every breath. He had done this. He had stood before the court and lied. He had called their beautiful love a crime. He had watched them strip her of everything she was, and he had done nothing. "Forgive me," he whispered into the darkness. "Forgive me, my love. Forgive me, my child." But forgiveness felt impossible. How could she forgive what he could never forgive himself? Years would pass. Marcus would be released eventually, his debt paid. He would be promoted to general as a reward for protecting the princess's honor with his false confession. He would serve the very queen who destroyed his life. And every night he would think of Elena. Every night he would wonder if she survived. Every night he would pray that somewhere out there, his child was alive, healthy, and loved. He didn't know that his prayers would be answered in ways he never imagined. He didn't know that 20 years later, his daughter would return. And she would come not as a beggar, but as a queen. 20 years of silence. The city of Merchant's Haven was nothing like Crystal Shore, where the palace had been cold stone and colder hearts. This bustling trade city was warm, alive, and full of possibility. Here, Elena had built a new life from nothing. She arrived 20 years ago, pregnant and penniless, with only determination keeping her alive. She had worked in kitchens, cleaned houses, and saved every coin. She never complained. She never stopped, because she had a daughter to raise. Arya was born on a spring morning, with her father's dark eyes and her mother's fierce spirit. From the moment Elena held her, she knew this child was special, not because of royal blood, but because she carried something more valuable, hope. Elena poured everything into Arya's education. She taught her to read and write. She found scholars to teach her mathematics, history, and languages. She showed her how to negotiate, how to spot lies, how to understand people. Arya absorbed it all like a sponge, her brilliant mind always hungry for more. By age 15, Arya was helping merchants negotiate trades. By 17, she was running her own small business. By 20, she controlled the largest trading company in Merchant's Haven. She was respected, feared, and admired. People called her the Merchant Queen, though they didn't know how accurate that title truly was. Elena had never told her daughter the full truth. She had told her that her father was a good man who loved them but couldn't be with them. She had told her about Crystal Shore, but painted it as a distant memory, a place of no importance. But secrets have a way of demanding to be told. The birthday revelation. On Arya's 20th birthday, Elena finally broke her silence. They sat in the garden of their modest but comfortable home. Arya was celebrating, surrounded by gifts from grateful business partners. She was laughing, her face bright with joy, and Elena's heart ached with what she had to do. "Arya," Elena said softly, "there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you long ago." Arya's smile faded. She knew her mother's serious voice. "What is it, mother?" Elena took a deep breath and began. She told Arya everything. About being a princess. About falling in love with Marcus. About the pregnancy, the accusation, the forced lie, the banishment. She told her about the cruelty of Queen Mother Octavia. She told her about watching her father forced to betray their love to save his family. She left nothing out. Every painful detail, every humiliating moment, every tear shed during that long walk into exile. Arya listened in silence, her face growing paler with each word. When Elena finished, tears were streaming down both their faces. "I'm a princess?" Arya whispered. "You're the rightful heir to the throne of Crystal Shore," Elena confirmed. "You were stripped of that title before you were even born. But blood doesn't lie. You are Princess Arya, daughter of Princess Elena, granddaughter of Queen Mother Octavia." Arya stood abruptly, her hands shaking. "And my father? The soldier, Marcus? He's still alive?" "I believe so," Elena said quietly. "Last I heard, he had risen through the ranks. He's now General Marcus, one of the kingdom's most respected military leaders." "He betrayed you," Arya said, her voice hard. "He saved his family," Elena corrected gently. "He was given an impossible choice. I forgave him long ago, not because what he did didn't hurt, but because I understood why he did it." Arya paced the garden, her mind racing. Her entire life had been a lie. No, not a lie, an incomplete truth. She wasn't just Arya the merchant. She was Princess Arya. She had royal blood. She had a birthright. "Does anyone know?" Arya asked. "Does the kingdom know I exist?" "I don't know," Elena admitted. "Your grandmother might assume we died in the wilderness. Or she might know we survived and simply not care. You were declared a non-person. In the eyes of the law, you don't exist." Something cold and sharp formed in Arya's chest. It wasn't quite anger. It wasn't quite pain. It was something more focused, more dangerous. "Tell me about the kingdom," Arya said. "Tell me everything you know about how it works, who holds power, what its weaknesses are." Elena looked at her daughter with sudden fear. "Arya, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Arya said, her voice calm but her eyes blazing, "that it's time the kingdom remembered us, building the foundation." The next 6 months changed everything. Arya began researching Crystal Shore with the precision of a general planning a campaign. She used her vast network of merchants and traders to gather information. She learned that the kingdom had declined significantly in the 20 years since her mother's exile. Queen Mother Octavia still ruled, but her grip was weakening. The economy was struggling. Trade routes had been mismanaged. The people were growing restless under heavy taxes and corrupt officials. The kingdom that had once been prosperous was now rotting from within. Arya also learned about her father. General Marcus was beloved by the common soldiers but despised by the corrupt nobility. He had tried to implement reforms, but Octavia blocked him at every turn. He was trapped, just as he had been 20 years ago, unable to act against the queen's will. "The kingdom is dying," Arya told her mother one evening. "Not from invasion or war, from neglect and greed. The people suffer while the nobles feast." "It's been that way for a long time," Elena said sadly. "It doesn't have to be," Arya replied. She began her plan carefully. First, she strengthened her economic power. She bought controlling interests in trading companies across multiple kingdoms. She established trade agreements with nations that had resources Crystal Shore desperately needed. Then, slowly, she began cutting Crystal Shore out of those agreements. The economic stranglehold. It started subtly. A shipment of grain diverted to another kingdom. A supply of iron redirected. Cotton that should have gone to Crystal Shore's textile mills suddenly finding better buyers elsewhere. At first, the kingdom's merchants barely noticed. But as weeks turned to months, the impact became impossible to ignore. Prices rose. Shortages appeared. The wealthy complained about luxuries becoming scarce. The poor went hungry. Queen Mother Octavia summoned her economic advisors, demanding answers. "Someone is systematically blocking our trade routes, Your Majesty," they reported. "Merchants who once served us loyally are now refusing our business." "Who?" Octavia demanded. "A trading company called Phoenix Rising, based in Merchant's Haven. It's controlled by a woman known only as the Merchant Queen. She seems to have incredible influence across all the major trade networks. Octavia's eyes narrowed. This merchant queen, does she have a name?
Arya, Your Majesty.
Just Arya. She appeared seemingly out of nowhere about 5 years ago and built an empire. The name meant nothing to Octavia. She had forgotten about the banished princess and her unborn child. Or perhaps she had never truly believed they would survive. Send emissaries to this Arya, Octavia commanded. Offer her whatever she wants. Double profits. Exclusive contracts. Make this problem go away. The emissaries were sent. They returned empty-handed. She refused every offer, Your Majesty. They reported, confusion in their voices. She said she wasn't interested in money. She said Crystal Shore had nothing she wanted. But that wasn't quite true. Crystal Shore had something Arya wanted very much. It had justice waiting to be served. The letter. On a cold winter morning, a letter arrived at the palace. It was addressed to Queen Mother Octavia, sealed with red wax stamped with a phoenix emblem. Octavia opened it in her private chambers. As she read, the color drained from her face. To Queen Mother Octavia of Crystal Shore, 20 years ago, you banished your daughter for the crime of loving an honest man. You forced that man to betray her. You cast her out pregnant and alone, declaring her unborn child to be nothing. That child was not nothing. That child survived. That child thrived. That child is me. I am Arya, daughter of Princess Elena and General Marcus. I am the granddaughter you tried to erase. I am the heir you declared non-existent. I am the phoenix rising from the ashes of your cruelty. You took everything from my mother. Her title, her home, her love, her dignity. You thought you were removing a problem. You were creating your downfall. I control the trade routes your kingdom depends on. I have the support of neighboring kingdoms who are tired of your corruption. I have the wealth to fund armies. I have the mind to plan your defeat. And most importantly, I have the birthright you tried to steal. You have two choices, grandmother. Abdicate peacefully, accept justice for your crimes, and perhaps live out your days in comfortable exile. Or refuse and watch your kingdom crumble around you while I take back what is mine by right. You have 1 month to decide. Princess Arya of Crystal Shore. Octavia crushed the letter in her fist, her hands shaking with rage. This was impossible. The child had survived? Not only survived, but thrived enough to threaten her. Guards! She screamed. The call to arms. Octavia immediately called an emergency council meeting. She showed them the letter, told them about the threat, and demanded action. This impostor must be dealt with, she announced. She claims to be my granddaughter, but that bastard child has no claim to anything. She's a criminal making threats. I want her arrested. I want her company destroyed. Your Majesty, one advisor ventured carefully. If what she says is true about controlling the trade routes, attacking her directly could make our economic situation much worse. I don't care, Octavia snapped. I will not be threatened by some merchant girl with delusions of royalty. But Your Majesty, what if she truly is your granddaughter? What if Princess Elena's child survived? Then she's still a bastard with no claim, Octavia insisted. The law is clear. General Marcus publicly confessed to forcing himself upon my daughter. Any child from that union is illegitimate. It was then that a voice spoke from the back of the chamber, a voice that made everyone turn. That confession was a lie. General Marcus stepped forward from where he had been standing in the shadows. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. After 20 years of silence, he was finally speaking the truth. The confession was forced, Marcus continued. Queen Mother Octavia threatened to execute my family if I didn't lie. I lied to save them. But Princess Elena and I loved each other. Our child was conceived in love, not violence. If that child truly survived, she is the legitimate heir to Crystal Shore. The council chamber exploded in shocked whispers. Octavia's face turned purple with rage. You dare confess to treason in my own council chamber? She hissed. I dare confess to the truth, Marcus said, his voice growing stronger. Something that should have been spoken 20 years ago.
Ilovet Princess Elena.
I love her still. And if my daughter has returned to claim what is hers, then I will support her claim. Then you are a traitor, Octavia declared. Guards, arrest General Marcus for treason. But the guards hesitated. Marcus was beloved. He had served honorably for decades. And now he was claiming that the queen had forced him to lie, had banished an innocent princess, had denied a legitimate heir. Doubt had entered the room. And doubt, once planted, grows quickly. You have 1 month, Marcus said to Octavia, echoing Aria's letter. 1 month before the truth comes for you. He turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving chaos behind him. The first victory. News of Marcus's confession spread through the kingdom like wildfire. Servants who heard it told merchants. Merchants told farmers. Farmers told everyone they met. Within days, the entire kingdom was buzzing with the story. The banished princess had a child. That child was alive. That child was coming home. Some people remembered Elena. They remembered her kindness, her gentle smile, the way she would visit the markets and actually talk to common people. They had mourned when she was banished, even though they hadn't dared speak against the queen. Now, those same people began to hope. If Elena's daughter was returning, maybe things would change. Maybe the corruption would end. Maybe they would have a ruler who actually cared. In Merchant's Haven, Arya received reports of the chaos her letter had caused. She learned of her father's confession, his public support of her claim, his act of defiance after 20 years of silence. She sat alone in her office, holding the report, tears streaming down her face. Her father, the man who had betrayed her mother, had finally told the truth. He had finally chosen love over fear. "Mother," Arya called out. Elena entered, immediately seeing her daughter's tears. "What is it?" Arya handed her the report. Elena read it, her hands shaking, tears falling on the paper. "He spoke the truth," Elena whispered. "After all these years, he finally spoke the truth. He's supporting my claim," Arya said. "He's standing with us." Mother and daughter held each other, crying for what was lost and what might still be saved. "It's time, isn't it?" Elena asked. "Yes," Arya replied, wiping her tears and standing tall. "It's time to go home. The reckoning. The march home." The army that marched toward Crystal Shore was unlike any the kingdom had ever seen. It wasn't an invading force of conquest. It was a coalition of hope. Arya had spent the past 3 weeks assembling it carefully. She had representatives from 5 neighboring kingdoms, all tired of Crystal Shore's aggressive trade policies under Octavia's rule. She had merchants who wanted fair trade restored. She had former Crystal Shore soldiers who had been dismissed for speaking against corruption. And at the center of it all, she had herself, Princess Arya, the rightful heir, finally coming home. Elena rode beside her daughter, her heart a mixture of terror and pride. She was returning to the place that had destroyed her, but she was returning as the mother of a queen. Her exile had not been the end of her story. It had been the beginning of something greater. "Are you afraid?" Arya asked her mother as they crested a hill and saw the spires of Crystal Shore Palace in the distance. "Terrified," Elena admitted, "but also ready. We've come too far to turn back now." Behind them, the coalition army stretched for miles. They carried banners with the phoenix emblem Arya's symbol. They sang songs of justice and renewal. They believed in what they were marching for. As they drew closer to the capital city, something unexpected happened. The gates opened, not to attack them, to welcome them, the people's welcome. Citizens poured out of the city by the thousands. They lined the roads, cheering, throwing flowers, holding signs that read, "Welcome home, Princess Elena," and "Long live Princess Arya." Arya stared in shock at the crowds. She had expected resistance, fear, maybe even violence. She had not expected this overwhelming display of support. An elderly woman broke from the crowd and approached Arya's horse. Guards moved to stop her, but Arya held up her hand. "Let her through." The woman looked up at Arya with tears in her eyes. I remember your mother, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. She was kind to us. She saw us as people, not servants. When she was banished, we wept. We've been waiting 20 years for justice. Justice is coming, Arya promised, helping the woman to her feet. I swear it. The crowd roared its approval. Inside the palace, Queen Mother Octavia watched from her window, her face twisted with rage and fear. Her own people had turned against her. The bastard granddaughter she had tried to erase was being welcomed as a hero. Prepare the royal guard, she commanded her captain. We will not surrender to this mob. Your Majesty, the captain said carefully, most of the guard. They're refusing to fight. They say they will not raise swords against Princess Elena's daughter. Octavia's blood ran cold. Even her own soldiers had betrayed her. She was alone. The palace gates. Arya's army stopped at the palace gates. She dismounted her horse and walked forward alone, just as her mother had walked alone into exile 20 years ago. But Arya was not walking away. She was walking home. The palace gates remained closed. Arya could see archers on the walls, but she also saw them lowering their bows. They would not shoot. They could not shoot their rightful princess. Open the gates. Arya's voice rang out clear and strong. I am Princess Arya, daughter of Princess Elena, granddaughter of Queen Mother Octavia. I have come to claim what is mine by birthright. Open the gates, or I will open them myself. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the gates began to swing open. But it wasn't Octavia who emerged. It was Marcus. Arya had seen sketches of her father. She had studied every detail, memorizing the face of the man who had betrayed her mother. But no sketch had prepared her for the reality of seeing him in person. He was older now, his dark hair streaked with silver, lines of sorrow carved deep into his face. But his eyes, those were the eyes she saw in her own mirror every morning. Twilight eyes, her mother had called them. Marcus stopped a few paces from Arya. He looked at her, and she saw his face crumble with emotion. He fell to his knees. Forgive me, he whispered, his voice breaking. Forgive me for what I did to your mother. Forgive me for the 20 years you grew up without a father. Forgive me for being a coward when I should have been brave. Arya stared down at this broken man, this general who had commanded armies, now weeping at her feet. She felt her mother come to stand beside her. Marcus, Elena said softly. He looked up, seeing Elena for the first time in 20 years. The woman he had loved. The woman he had betrayed. The woman he had never stopped thinking about. Elena, he breathed. You're alive. You're here. You're still standing, Elena finished. We both are. Against all odds, we survived. I'm so sorry, Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry for what I did. Not a day has passed that I haven't regretted it. Not a night has passed that I haven't thought of you, wondered if you were safe, if our child lived, if there was any way I could ever make it right. Arya knelt down to her father's level, looking him in the eyes. You made a choice to save your family, she said. My mother has forgiven you, but I am not my mother. I need to know, if you were given the same choice again today, what would you choose? Marcus didn't hesitate. I would choose you. I would choose your mother. I would choose love over fear, truth over lies. I would burn down the world before I let anyone hurt you again. Then stand up, father, Arya said, offering him her hand. Stand up and fight with us. Marcus took his daughter's hand, and for the first time in 20 years, he felt like he was finally doing something right. The throne room confrontation. They entered the palace together, Arya, Elena, and Marcus, with the coalition army at their backs. The corridors that had once been filled with cold judgment were now filled with the sound of hope marching forward. Queen Mother Octavia waited in the throne room, sitting on her golden throne, wearing her crown. She looked smaller than Arya had imagined. Not a terrifying monster, but a bitter old woman clinging to power she no longer deserved. So, Octavia said, her voice dripping with contempt, the bastard child has come to claim her mother's shame. I've come to claim my birthright, Arya corrected, walking forward with confidence, and to bring justice for crimes that have gone unpunished for far too long. Justice? Octavia laughed. You speak of justice while invading my kingdom with a foreign army? Not foreign, Arya replied. These are your own people, your own soldiers, your own citizens who are tired of corruption. And I'm not invading. I'm coming home. You have no home here, Octavia spat. You are nothing. A merchant's daughter playing dress-up. I am Princess Arya, Arya declared, her voice filling the throne room. And you, grandmother, are finished. Octavia stood, her face purple with rage. I am the Queen Mother. I have ruled this kingdom for 40 years. You are a child with delusions of grandeur. You have ruled with cruelty, Arya countered. You banished your own daughter for loving an honest man. You threatened an innocent family to force a false confession. You declared your own granddaughter to be non-existent. You have squeezed this kingdom dry with taxes while you feast. You have blocked reforms that would help the people. You have clung to power while everything around you crumbled. I did what was necessary to preserve the dignity of the crown. You preserved nothing, Arya said, her voice sad rather than angry. You destroyed everything. Look around you, grandmother. You're alone. Your guards won't fight for you. Your advisors have fled. Your people are outside celebrating my return. You have no power left. All you have is that chair.